So today we'll talk about international cooperation between the United States and Ukraine. You know that it happens on many levels, starting with heads of state, but also military, cultural, academic, scientific exchanges. And some of that cooperation is happening under the umbrella of UAS sister city and open world programs, which we will discuss today in more detail. Toledo, Ohio was the first American city that entered into the formal partnership with foreign city, which was Toledo, Spain in 1931. But fortunately, you don't have to have the same name to enter into sister city programs. Poltava in Ukraine became the first city which entered into this partnership with U.S. city in New York State. I hope I pronounced it correctly. Iron-the-Quad, home to a large Ukrainian community. And today we will discuss where this partnership stands today, the main challenges and opportunities, and how both countries, United States and Ukraine, benefit from those partnerships. So let me introduce my panel today. We'll start with Natalia Lebedin. Lebedin. She's an architect and principal at WCA, an interdisciplinary design firm in Columbus, Ohio. She's the president of the Ukrainian Cultural Association of Ohio, a state leader with the American Coalition for Ukraine, and she's also advisor to the Ohio Housing Innovation Partnership. Her work focuses on civic leadership, community organizing, and Ukraine advocacy. Next is Louis Madanick. He's a senior program manager at the Congressional Office for International Leadership, which runs the Open World program, and Louis has been with this program for 25 years. He also served as deputy director of Soros International Science Foundation and worked with the International Executive Service Corps, supporting programs for the State Department, USAID, and US Department of Commerce across the former Soviet Union. And Maria Doan, who is from Minnesota. She's a Minnesota leader for Minnesota Delegation at the American Coalition for Ukraine, and she coordinates advocacy connecting Minnesota constituencies with federal policymakers on Ukraine. She's also president of the Minnesota branch of the Ukrainian National Women's League of America, one of the oldest organizations. Her work focuses on strengthening partnerships between the United States and Ukraine, including burgeoning partnership between Minnesota and Chernihiv Oblast. She also involved in Bring Kids Back campaign. So let's welcome all our panel participants. We'll start with Louis. You have been involved in this work longer than probably anyone else. If you can just say maybe just a little bit and give us a taste, how this partnership, not on the state level but on the lower level, began in independent Ukraine after it gained its independence?
Sure, thank you. Is there room? Oh no, I got this. Okay. Hello, is this on? I have three sisters, so I feel very at home. So, yeah, this is a great question. I went with actually a people-to-people group to Kharkiv in 1991 with the International Executive Service Corps, and that trip was the first trip of Kharkiv-Cincinnati, Sister City Partnership, and then shortly thereafter there was the first former Soviet Union Sister City Conference in Cincinnati. So that was 1991. They were heady years to be in that part of the world. And actually, I wish I could go back there because I'm a Russian linguist. I'm a student of the Cold War. And right when I got off the train in Kharkiv, somebody asked me to speechki. And I didn't have the right answer. And I had been studying Russian for so many years. To not say speechki, it still bothers me till today. So after the first years of independence, the U.S. government was supportive of funding sustainable sister city partnerships. There was a community partnership program, which is an inspiration through today. I used a lot of my planning with the map that they have. I still keep it on my wall, as well as the map of the National Guard program. There's a wonderful program that the National Guard runs between, I believe it's state, it would be full oblasts and U.S. cities like, Maryland is Estonia, Sacramento is Kiev. So it's city-to-city relationship, the national partnerships. And I believe Odessa is Estonia, possibly. No?
Odessa and Baltimore.
Of course, silly me. I speak with Karina all the time, and she's now in Kiev. And we have a lot of people from Odessa at the conference, so it was a silly mistake, a nervous mistake, beginner's mistake. So the goal for these sister cities programs were always accountability, economic partnership, but believe it or not, even cultural programs were supported with partnerships and funding. One might say that this program was considered, I'm going to be a little sarcastic, somewhat woke, and there's Project Harmony and bands coming in, kids in schools. It was an incredible group of exchanges. Project Harmony up in Vermont was creating partnerships. There was a rule of law consortium. Actually, I went with a judge from Minnesota to Ukraine, not for necessarily a partnership, but we did a lot of partnering between courts. And so NGOs and the Orange Revolution, Europe decentralization, the anti-corruption campaigns.
I'm apologizing. I'll interrupt you here.
Please.
Let's get into today's date.
I was going by the time.
Yeah. Today, many international programs we know, such as USAID and other international programs, has been shut down or lost of their funding. But Open World program still stands. So why do you think it is so? And what's your focus today on which programs?
I think it's so because, I know it's so, is that we're in the legislative branch. And the legislative branch is somewhat, of course, the Library of Congress, the Librarian of Congress was fired, and that was a huge conflict. But so we're in the ledge branch, and we've maintained flat budget for about 11 years. And we did at the early part of 2026, we kind of had to go to more the three of Mario Rubio's requirements: profitability, security, and I forget what the third is. And so we rejiggered our kind of themes to be more America first. Mm-hmm. And not for the administration, but for Congress, which was also helped by the same party. We had to be responsive to stay in business. But I think we kept the spirit.
But can you give an example? Like, what is America First focus? Like, what are you focusing exactly?
Well, for example, in September of this year, we'll have, I believe, 4 sister city groups going to Minnesota. To Ohio, 1 to Toledo, 1 to Dayton, and 1 to Oxford from Dubna. It's a new partnership. We're not doing as much civil groups of Ukraine. As a matter of fact, we have 5 MPs in town today. So the America First is kind of to be under the rubric of investment, the rare earth minerals and trade. We just brought a group to Kansas City on rare earth minerals. So we're trying to be, although we're doing less people, we're doing only about 90 Ukrainians this year, when usually we do 200 or more. So we have 15 groups this year instead of 60 groups in a normal year. And that was because we got additional funding from State Department, but that's now dried up.
So it's
we're
less
flat,
people, more business. Less people to people, more business.
Less people to people, more business, yeah.
And if anyone is interested, how can someone get involved in one of those programs?
Sure, we have a very good website called the Open World Leadership Center. We send to communities throughout the United States. We also have other countries. I had Lithuanian MPs here last week, Estonian cybersecurity. I've got Estonians actually in Baltimore right now looking at vocational training. So we're very easy to get in touch with through my website, and I'm also very easy to find, lmad@coil.gov. But all you have to do is Google Open World, and you can find us. And we have an office, of course, in Kiev, right by the Olympic Stadium there, Chateau Staveli, close. And so we're very easy, very open. We love doing projects that what we call them grantee nominated, where a host and the grantee has the opportunity to suggest their group. It's no guarantee because they get J1 visas, so there's no guarantee of participation, but we give them a higher priority, and we also then fill it up with maybe another region or another industry. So we're trying to make every group that we send to be as productive as possible.
Thank you very much. And now let's turn to Natalia. What has been your experience with sister city partnerships? What are the main challenges in establishing those partnerships and maintaining them? And if Lucy can share the mic.
Yeah, of course.
Hello, everybody. So when the full-scale invasion first broke out, the Ukrainian community in Columbus immediately sprang into action, humanitarian aid. We relied on our personal relationships to people in Ukraine, very grassroots sort of volunteer-to-volunteer network. But the support was strong, especially at the civic level, and many American organizations wanted to collaborate, and we were open to collaborations. And so we started having conversations with the city of Columbus and talking about how to work together. Right away we asked, so can we do a sister city relationship? And it soon became clear that that road was long and arduous. We would have to wait in a queue behind Kyoto, Lisbon, and I think there was a city in Brazil that was already waiting to go through the process of finding the right stakeholders to establish a sister city partnership. So from what I learned, Sister City International is a very robust, wonderful organization that is designed to set up this partnership for success. So it is a little bit more long and bureaucratic. Ukrainians in Columbus were impatient and said, you know, the heck with that. So we just continued on with what we were doing, sending medical aid to the people we knew, and looking at, always looking at other possibilities.
So what are the possibilities? Did you find a better way?
We did. It just so happened that there was a mayor's conference in Columbus where some Ukrainian mayors were invited, and we were on the scene to support this mayoral delegation. We had some functions, common functions. They visited an art exhibit of children's art, children's war art, art therapy art, and personal relationships were established between mayors from Ukraine and the mayor of Columbus specifically, Andrew Ginther. He happens to be, or last year he was, the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. This is the largest mayor organization, association of cities of 30,000 plus, and he took it upon himself with the mayor of Lviv, Andriy Sadovey, and a common denominator in this mix was David Fortier, who runs an organization called One World Strong. And this organization sprung out of, Dave Fortier himself is a survivor of the Boston Marathon attack. And as a survivor, he and other survivors just informally decided to support each other. And after, I think it was the Miami nightclub bombing or terrorist violent attack, they quietly, informally, casually went down there to provide support for those survivors. and it sort of snowballed and grew, and he found himself eventually in Lviv after the full-scale invasion, trying to figure out how to help. In the meantime, he had built a network, a personal network of mayors, including the mayor of Manchester, the Ariana Grande concert, a terrible event was there, and the mayor of Lviv. Anyway, in a matter of a couple of weeks, they had signed a memorandum of understanding between all of the cities in the United States, the U.S. Conference of Mayors, and an association of regional and municipal mayors in Ukraine. Basically, the mission was support and cooperation for Ukrainian reconstruction. So this is now, if anybody is looking for a document, a reason to help any kind of private or public-private collaboration happen, you can pull this out and say, look, this should be supported. There's a memorandum of understanding.
So it's through lived trauma, through lived experience, where this network started.
Yeah.
Can you tell how it works using the concrete example of Ohio? I know Ohio is a sister state of Zhytomyr. Yes, Zhytomyr Oblast, or am I mistaken?
So there's a number of relationships.
Okay, and the one is I'm most interested to hear about is the city of Athens, Ohio, where I went to school and where I had my master's degree with Ostroh. But can you kind of give some example how it works on the ground?
Okay, first of all, the state of Ohio has a memorandum of understanding with the Kharkiv Oblast, which took a year and a half. There's an Eastern European Commission was formed soon after the full-scale invasion. We had a particularly supportive governor who has pushed this agenda. However, upcoming election, we're not sure what will happen in the future and whether these relationships will continue to be supported. So that's on one scale. They're looking at specifically academic collaboration at a number of institutions, Cleveland State, OSU, in Columbus, Ohio State University, and Ohio University, University of Cincinnati, because of certain personal ties that they have at those institutions. So there's that. There is also the Athens, Ohio, Ostroh, city of Ostroh. That's a sister city partnership. I believe that might have been expedited because they had extra support through Hovarla, which was a USAID funded program, which no longer exists. So again, some of that support, the financial support, is simply not there anymore. But besides all of those, besides sister cities and the very sort of formal sister state relationship, there's also less formal collaboration happening now. Mayor Ginther, of course, said, "Hey, how can Columbus do something? Let's do something." And there was a group of psychologists at a hospital, Nationwide Children's in Columbus, who were looking for partners. So we were able to connect them with a group in Zhytomyr, at Zhytomyr Polytechnic Institute, a group of psychologists, and they have begun, it's young, it's green, but they have begun a collaboration providing very specific support. The psychologists at Nationwide Children's are creating video training materials that are then translated for Ukrainian psychologists for professional development on very specific topics: post-traumatic stress in teenagers, how to support families of children undergoing trauma, and various other, we have a list, and we're working down a list.
But how having this formal relationship with sister cities help in this cooperation? Like, it can be done without it, right? So what is formal part? What it contribute?
The formal part, that memorandum of understanding and the support from the city, helps institutions like Nationwide Children's, which in this climate, the institutions like that, hospitals, can feel less certain. There are legal issues, there's the political climate, but that memorandum of understanding and support from the city helps them feel more at ease, supporting those kinds of programs.
Okay, thank you
It's
very
also
much.
mayor to mayor.
Okay, more relationships, more connections. Maria, let's now turn to you, if you can pass the microphone. So in February 2024, the governors of Minnesota and Chernihiv Oblast signed the Memorandum of Understanding on Agriculture. Why this particular pairing? How the states get selected? How they select each other? They're like an image.com for states. And what has been achieved since then?
Thank you so much for your question. So for the Match.com part, in reality, the states actually share similarities. So Minnesota is a northern state, so it's Chernihiv Oblast. I would love to say that there was a ton of research, numerous hours put into the selection process. In reality, it was very simple. The junior consul at the Chicago Consulate of Ukraine had personal relationships with Chernihiv governors and mayors, and our governor, he wanted to do something for Ukraine, and that's how Chernihiv Oblast was selected. Then, as you remember, our former ambassador, Oksana Marokarova, she was on that grand tour sponsored by Howard Buffett throughout the Midwest. And she essentially signed that agreement with our governor, Tim Walz, and that was the Memorandum of Understanding. It has a really nice legal framework to establish the partnerships between the state of Minnesota and the Chernihiv region. And I think that's a really nice first step in that direction, to build the collaboration, to make sure that all the parties are sharing their experiences and that they are benefiting from that relationship.
Well, I know that formal agreements are important, but not necessary. As I understand, there was a lot of cooperation going on between Minnesota and different Ukrainian cities and states and institutions. We actually did some stories about medical, how the doctors were helping Ukrainians, or academic exchanges. Can you talk a little bit about Minnesota involvement with Ukraine?
Certainly. So historically, Minnesota is one of those states that had really large, well-established Ukrainian diaspora, and that's what helped establish those partnerships. In the past, we had sister city relationships between the city of Hopkins and Boryspil, and I believe there were a few others. But essentially, it's very much grassroots movement. So with the beginning of the invasion in 2014, early on, there was an organization called Maidan Minnesota that started sending humanitarian aid, that started advocating for Ukraine, and that's essentially became of the core of Stand With Ukraine Men, which is a group of dedicated individuals who are sending aid to Ukraine, and it varies. It's humanitarian aid, supplies of different kinds. I think we were very successful because we were able to establish a partnership with another nonprofit called Matter that helps provide medical supplies that the hospitals no longer use. And because of their donations, since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, since 2022, we were able to send donations in kind for roughly 15 million worth of aid. And it's remarkable, we were able to establish partnerships with several hospitals in Odessa, Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkiv, that are really grateful to receive that equipment. And also send the tourniquets to the front lines, any other aid that might be needed there. And that grassroots movement was essentially what prompted a lot of individuals to get interested in supporting Ukraine and just showcasing how, the power of people can really influence policy and politics at the local level that later on will transcend to the federal one.
As Lewis just noted, it's all happening in the framework of American First foreign policy. So I have two interrelated questions. First, how does those partnerships benefit the United States at the national level, if at all? And the second question is how important to sustain those relationships at this particular time of history,
Certainly. So one of the things that is always good to keep in mind, in Minnesota we have several companies that are interested in Ukrainian technology, in Ukrainian innovation. And those are both companies that provide weapons, and there are also agricultural companies. And because of the war, Ukrainians were forced to innovate in so many different fields. And that's definitely something that those companies are interested in learning, and they are interested in sustaining those relationships with Ukrainians. Obviously, we don't live in a vacuum. Living in Minnesota, I can definitely draw parallels with Ukraine, and the events of the last year again showed how important it is to listen to the people. And given that, I know that there were some cutbacks to many programs that were very helpful in sustaining the relationships. So we're definitely excited for both the midterms and for the election. We're most likely going to get a new governor. Our current one will be stepping down. So based on that, I'm excited to see what's going to happen next.
Thank you, Maria. If you can expand on those same two questions. How does the United States benefit as a country, and why it's important to continue this work for Ukrainians too?
I would say, first of all,
you can
sorry. I'm not used to a mic. I would say, first of all, just look at, I believe, if I remember, somebody said at a conference I was at the other day that more Ukrainians died in Afghanistan per capita than any other country. Supporting the U.S. the first time, the NATO fifth, whatever it was called, was enacted, and it was the United States that asked for it. I believe we, as the United States of America, should thank Ukraine. Also, I do a lot of work with polytrauma, and I've been in Minnesota. We sent a group to the Minnesota Polytrauma of Excellence through the VHA, and we're learning incredible information about hybrid warfare and about, a terror rain from above. Previous battles were legs and up to the waist. Now most of the injuries are eyes, the head, and these are new lessons for the United States. It's sad that we're learning warfare, and of course, Ukraine was one of the first countries to offer to help us in a situation with Iran. I don't think anybody has more experience blowing up Shahed drones. So these business relationships that have been, fostering since 1991, when this war is over and the great victory happens, the relationship between our countries will be incredibly economic, and the more partnerships there are, I'm very optimistic about the future. We just got to get rid of the gentleman that's killing too many Ukrainians. And I think Ukraine's got a great future with American investment. And not only that, we have a lot of Ukrainians are now investing in the United States that come from our program, and they come back, because right now, actually, this is an interesting feature for America to consider. We had a group of our first rare earth minerals group that went to Kansas City, Missouri about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And a lot of the Americans wanted to go back and wanted to work under this DFC, this framework. But there's a war going on. Where do you go invest? Where do you go make this? How do you send your corporate executives out there? So there's a lot of hunger in the United States to help Ukraine get there once their path is formed. And just one last statement, I think from you ladies have taught us. Sister Cities is a great organization, and I've worked with them since they had that little house in Arlington many, many years ago. It's a dues-paying membership, and it's very formal, mayor to mayor. I would say a great majority, 70, 80% of the partnerships I worked with are hospital, are university. I know out in with Uzhhorod University, I know there's a great partnership out in Oregon. I forget the name of the community college. A great active American who sends lots of equipment to Ukraine. I just think America knows who its friends are. I think the majority of America knows who its friends are and what the future is going to be. And I think we all celebrated the great loss of Mr. Orban. And I think that's what, hopefully it shows movement in the right direction and the world changing to the way it should be.
Thank you. And Natalia, if you want to add to this, this question.
Right, so there's economic advantages, right? Especially to the companies that get in now and lay the groundwork and get contacts so that post-war reconstruction, they're on the ground running. It's going to be fruitful. There's the innovation aspect. Of course, defense, medical innovation, unfortunately, but also communications, other technology, transportation, sustainable energy, huge. If I were a U.S. municipal entity or a state entity, I'd be right in there. And then there's also the social, political, cultural fabric of communities and people connecting that builds the democracy and the global mindset that do make America strong. So I don't know if it's particularly within the parameters of the current whatever 3 priorities, but yeah. But laying those foundations will strengthen the world, not just the U.S. and Ukraine.
Thank you. Maybe someone have questions? Please go ahead. The floor is yours. Okay.
Let's go first.
So what I would suggest is we have a microphone right in the middle. So if people have questions, let's line up and then ask our distinguished panelists a question, please. I will also check the chat. We have a QR code. You can submit your questions online if you are too afraid to come to the mic, and I'll read those questions as well.
All right. Thank you to all the panelists and Tatiana for your moderation. My name is Tim Jenkins. I'm from Illinois. I represent a nonprofit headquartered in Prague called People in Need. We're one of the largest humanitarian actors in Ukraine with roughly $100 million a year in support. During lunch, my colleague Sophia, wherever you are, Sophia Wave, if you're behind me, she's behind me somewhere, we were talking about the need to support our grandmas and grandpas that are near or sometimes behind the front lines in Ukraine, our aunties and uncles, the elderly, frankly. And when we speak to the State Department or we speak to congressional leaders, there's not a lot of appetite for helping the elderly. Of course, children, education, immediate humanitarian assistance, those are things that resonate. And so what we were talking about over lunch was that, like, how can we engage with the Ukrainian diaspora and your communities to maybe both raise awareness on the needs to support these people that are frankly left behind, and then maybe how can we come together as communities in our transatlantic partnership, because I represent an organization in Prague, because thankfully we do have some flexible funds from the 500,000 checks they give to us every year, but that's minimal compared to the large need to support the elderly in Ukraine. So I was wondering, how can we engage your communities in Minnesota, in Ohio, to maybe raise awareness, and it can be broadly, but how can we collaborate with you as civil society? Thank you very much.
I'll take that. I would not focus immediately on the Ukrainian diaspora community. They are doing as much as they can already. I would focus on American communities that are organizations that are already helping the elderly here, and create an awareness sort of event that brings awareness of the situation there and parallels, and creates an opportunity for advocacy, support, financial donation, but also collaboration to see how best to support the elderly, both there and here.
I'm going to ask a question from the audience only because it's related, and this is a question for Pani Lebedin. This is kind of a follow-up in terms of engaging communities outside of Ukrainian communities. Ohio has a large number of evangelical Christians who came from Ukraine. Are these Ukrainian churches engaged in international advocacy work based on your experience? Did you hear that question?
Yes. Columbus, in fact, has a very large Ukrainian evangelical population. I hesitate to speak from that perspective because I'm not part of their community. I grew up Ukrainian Orthodox, but our cultural organization and their churches have found ways to work together. As with any community, religious community, there are different approaches or various degrees to which they cooperate with us. Last summer, we did an event, we did a Ukrainian Independence Day celebration together, which was a great success. And I know that their community continues to work very hard at fundraising, organizing, and sending aid to communities in Ukraine. That is absolutely, they do amazing work, and they are absolutely devoted to this work. And so I am very proud that they have found ways to work outside of their community with us and with Americans, and that we all work together.
Thank you. My name is Valery Yakovenko at Drone UA, and I'm the alumni of the Open World program. So thank you very much for everything what you have done for so many years. My question is the following. I had a chance to talk with Natalia chat a little bit about the sister city initiatives, how states can work together between US and Ukraine. And when we talked, you touched something really interesting. It was about consecutivity of this support or of this collaboration. Like, not to do this just once, but repeat it, continue to do this for decades in advance. And I've heard a story that something was not constituent, like something was not going forward when it was supposed to be with the government support. The question: in what way we can secure that those relations that we are building so heavily in a so heavily difficult atmosphere that they will last for decades? How we can influence citizen diplomacy on the ground to boost up that those partnerships are important, that they will be never forgotten. This is a question to you, and the follow-up question to Louis. Since the Open World program is going out right now with more business-to-business initiatives to boost up partnership between the US and Ukraine, how we can secure that those business partnerships will continue after the delegation will leave the United States, came back to Ukraine, and share this experience and build this partnership. What is the follow-up? And Maria, if you have anything to add to this topic, please ask you as well. Thank you.
So you need the policy framework, you need the people in power to agree to make it happen. There's got to be financial support. Without financial support, it'll flounder, depending on volunteer organizations, where volunteers come and go. You can't force volunteers to do anything. The people, and you need money and results. Some sort of quantifiable metric to say it worked, and then have it continue.
Well, I got first a kind of political, not outside of open world answer would be, we have to stop the Russian myth of corruption in Ukraine. Ukraine made incredible steps, with Prozoro, with Sapo, with Nabu, just incredible steps. And there have been mistakes and there has been corruption, but I compare Ukrainian corruption to American corruption anytime, and far greater corruption in Russia and what Mr. Putler is doing. So I think if we got to beat that message, kill it. And I mean, I run a small program I would call a small exchange program, and we try to do our most. So I'm thinking to Valerie's question, what we try is sustainable. Every single delegate, every single person we bring, we question, we tell them the goal of the program is partnerships and projects. We answer to higher powers at State Department in the Measure program. So we try to keep the metrics there. And each person is considered a citizen diplomat. But as you said, we're doing more B&B. So we're more than, and I will have to consult with you in the business community because that's not my strength. But we would have to have you folks, the business community, nominate for Ukraine. And we learned actually the first lesson. We brought our first rare earth minerals group, some great Ukrainians. But every time the war, it was 4 years, it was like they were here over the 4-year anniversary. And our folks told us that there's a difference, that the Ukrainians are sadder, tireder, and they want investment. They have great positions, great opportunities, but how do they bring people to invest during a war? We need to win this war. And the future is so bright. It's so bright here that I have to wear shades, but that's my answer, I'd say. Yeah.
Really quickly, also add success stories. Showcase Ukrainian companies like yours. That's it. Let the numbers speak for themselves. For the American side, find people who care. There are many, many people looking for help. Looking to help Ukraine. And for them, that's a great opportunity to be useful. And if you can establish a good relationship and get them to be invested, that's half of the success right there.
I have a quick answer to the first part of the question. Was there are many groups like the mayors, this group that you spoke about, the National Governors Association, the International City Managers Association. There's a group I know in Lviv called Cities for Cities, and they're all collecting lists of groups of gramado or villages in Ukraine or cities in Ukraine that are eagerly looking for American partners, and this reverse list about American cities that would be more than happy to do partners. Somebody's got to be clever enough to put A and B together. That's where you have to connect the line across the thing. So it's a lot of work, and it's worth it. I mean, we thank Ukraine every day for saving freedom and democracy.
Thank you, and we're ready for the next question.
Hello, Eugene Chu from Team Virginia this time. My question's a little more simple. Minority outreach, didn't know how effective or ineffective that would be as a tactic, since we're talking about international partnerships. As an example, I remember a year or so ago, I believe United Help Ukraine or a different Ukrainian group was operating a table or booth over at a Taiwan bubble tea festival over in Maryland. And getting to the point, I didn't know whether outreach through, again, adjacent groups like other ethnic minorities, because one other commonality between Ukraine and the US, a lot of ethnic minorities over there, a lot of different religions, besides Christianity or Orthodox or Protestant. We also have Catholic, Judaism, Islam, and others. But getting back to point, effective or ineffective to try to partner or link with adjacent ethnic or religious minority groups?
Who's interested?
Try it. That's the only way to find out. But in all honesty, I think that might be a very good way to reach those communities and that get more involved in advocating for Ukraine and establishing partnerships. I don't know how familiar you are with the book Russian Colonialism 101. It used to be very famous, we can connect later. But just drawing from the historic analogies of those disadvantaged groups and how much in common they share with Ukrainians historically, that's a really good way to reach those communities and get them to see Ukraine as their potential partner in the future.
I'll comment on this question because we've reached to, like you said, Taiwanese community. They've reached to us. Thank you. So this is a great question because United Help Ukraine and I think a lot of organizations here as well, we've reached to communities like Taiwanese community in DC region. We've reached to Vietnamese community in California and also in the US globally. So I think this is where organizations need to actively bring new communities in. And I think that's also part of the coalition's goal, not just to have Ukrainian communities join us, but as this panel discussion is talking about international partnerships, and especially in the States, bringing in more people and focusing on Americans and other minorities to join the coalition, to join our grassroots advocacy work. Thank you.
Thank you. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Dominic Scarangelli. I'm representing the Washington delegation. However, I do have more of a question directed at Maria because I'm currently attending a school in Minnesota for finishing my JD. It's called Mitchell Hammond's School of Law. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but
I live in St. Paul, so yes.
Oh yeah. So my question was. How would you suggest engaging the students at the school to get them to start participating and helping Ukraine?
Are you a student?
Yes.
There you go. You can get engaged with those communities. When I was in graduate assistant, I think was my title. There was a club on campus where they would pair you up with different nonprofits within the area, so you can volunteer with them. But also, if you can find several like-minded individuals, you can proactively open up like a little club, if you will, and then based on that, find more fellow volunteer students and then engage with other organizations. Also, like, we're always looking for volunteers. There are so many organizations in Minnesota who are interested in supporting Ukraine, and please do find me. We should talk afterwards, but talking to people, asking the student government body if they would like to pair you up with different organizations within the area. That's like a really good way to get involved, but yeah, let's connect afterwards.
Okay, I think it'd be awesome.
Also, are you part of Student Ukraine Action Summit?
No, I had to pick.
Okay, that's great, but you're aware of it, right?
Yeah, I was aware.
Okay, that's great. So I just want to mention that we also have a Student Ukraine Action Summit, and it happens yearly. So if you and your fellow students from Minnesota would like to attend, that would be a great opportunity for you to learn more what other students are doing across country.
Thank you. I would, but actually in the fall I'll already graduated, so.
Okay, you still can attend, or you can engage your students who are following just let them know that such thing exists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ellie. I'm shorter. Thank you. Hi, I'm Ellie Owens. I represent Washington State, and oftentimes, or most of the times, I'm actually in San Francisco. My question is a bit more broad. Louis, you were mentioning the resources in Ukraine. It's one of the strong points. It's a question to all of you, and you guys can decide from which angle to kind of come. But the resources is one point as a strength. On the other side, when it comes to AI and United States trying to compete with China, I mean, it's kind of very close in between, right? But when it comes to building data centers, expanding on AI, one of the bottlenecks is resources, right? So connecting those dots together, and the fact that Ukraine is very digitized, like even if you take cities, right? A lot of times there are some things that US can learn from Ukraine, even on the city level. So my question is, this is all great, you know, we can go up from the top, but top is not as important in some cases. And so we need to go down to state and city when it comes to like, okay, we're building data centers, okay, we need resources from Ukraine, let's say. And my question is more of, for each of your state, what is the vibe of people about these topics, and is there a potential of connecting sister cities between the states and Ukrainian cities from that perspective, from technology perspective, and exchanging benefits?
Oh, good, we're on. First of all, I'll make a public service announcement. It's probably in each of your states, we're looking for homestay families, so that's one way. And I was thinking this kind of combines with the last answer, the last question about how to get university students involved. And I thought, of course, and it's not my solution because it's not my specialty, but of course a lot has to be used of the social media and TikToks or whatever, because that's the attraction now for a younger and more involved kind of millennial population that we might want to encourage or ask to. They travel more, or if they leave the Starbucks, they travel more. But there's great resources, particularly new technologies that all of us should be using. I like our program. We do homestays, so we've had many of the younger kids go visit or become pen pals or computer pals, and that might have been a less sophisticated age. But I think nowadays the future is staying alive, feeding yourself, getting a good future technology. So I think all the variables are there to put people together. We used to call them, most to build bridges. That was a phrase from the 90s. Now we have to build bridges, but also bridges that are through with fiber, some sort of what's that called? Fiber, high-speed fiber optics. So the most also would include high-speed fiber optic cables. But that's about all I have to say to that.
I think the trick is to find the person or small group that runs a data center in the US, and the person in the small group that is doing that work in Ukraine, and connecting them together and making sure they establish a personal relationship and rapport. If they're doing the same kind of work, they will find the conversation happens easily, and then to see how they can cooperate. But you have to find those entities, and it's not always easy to do that. And I just wanted to suggest to the how to engage students. I would suggest maybe a food event to bring in and create a social environment and soft diplomacy, food diplomacy. Start there. Or a sports event like a walkathon or runathon.
Also, for those in the know about Ukrainian military innovation, the Delta system, they are amazed at the results that Ukrainians are able to achieve. So for those people, they already know they want to get involved. I think it's more important to communicate it to the greater audience so that they can see what Ukrainians are able to do with AI in real time and how those results translate into successes on the battlefield. So I think those are very critical too.
The reason I was asking you this question specifically was because when it comes to building a data center, if the city bans it, then it's not going to be there. And I understand the constraints, and that's why I'm curious about different states. So you guys represent different states, so you know how your people feel about these things, right? And so whether it comes to like the data center or the resources from another country, what is the, like, I'm more curious right now about how do the people feel. And I do love your point, like if you go business to business, that's the key. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have time for one more question? Okay, please go.
Hi, my name is Veronica Madanick. I am ACU board member and also board member of Georgian Association. Before I say anything, I wanted to correct the record Luis mentioned about highest per capita presence in Afghanistan. That was not Ukraine, that was actually Georgia. But Ukraine actually has the highest, like just regular numbers comparing to Georgia.
It was a lot about mines.
Right, but the truth is that I wanted to bring up this thing that are you engaged with groups like Georgians who are the biggest supporters of Ukraine, obviously, and we're trying to help everywhere because we feel like we fight the same fight. And how much are you, in your respective states, are you tapping into these resources, if any? Thank you.
I'm trying to think. It's not necessarily for me the question, but I'll do my best on that. Yeah, why don't you start it now? Yeah.
So funny you should mention that. In Columbus, we just had a Georgian culinary workshop. We have one wonderful Georgian sort of in our community that helps with Madanick workshops, and now we did a Georgian workshop. However, we haven't found quite the same like level of organized Georgian association or that kind of engaged sort of organizational body. But we have done events with the Polish community, and I know the Baltic community in Ohio is very active in advocacy and with ACU. So it's there, and that's definitely something to leverage in our work.
Two other points, I guess. To us, Georgia, coming from what you're saying, not necessarily totally directly related, is a very huge marker for what's going to happen to that whole part of the world and what the West will allow. And back to the previous question, I think universities, I know the University of College at UMBC, University of Maryland, Boston has great clusters and great centers where makers centers, and they're always eager to partner with groups that we bring. And I would say I agree that getting to towns and cities in the United States, and that's where the grassroots support is. There's, Congress is not going to come up with the 90 billion anymore, unfortunately.
Maybe very short for Minnesota. Anything from Minnesota? Very brief. Maria, yes or no?
I have another question from the QR code.
Okay.
Would you like to
Follow up on this question, or I have another one for all of you from the QR code. You're good? Okay. So I think this is going to be the last question, and actually ties all together. And the question is from Maria, who submitted it via QR code. What role does the Embassy of Ukraine or Ukrainian consulates play in establishing international relationships based on your experience?
I can take that one. They are supportive and they're great to work with, but also we need to understand that onus is on the individuals who are dedicated. So what it means, we need to establish those connections. We need to make sure that we are ready to go, and then we can engage with the embassy or with the consulate and make sure that we can sign those agreements. But a lot of the grunt work, you know, you need to roll up your sleeves and do it yourself.
So that is country to country straight diplomacy. That is classic diplomacy. But what we've been talking about is what you call paradiplomacy, which is the soft diplomacy that happens beyond or outside of that direct diplomacy, which is especially useful when diplomatic ties might be strained country to country. So these state to state, or oblast to state, province, and city to city connections lay the foundations and are truly like load bearing for the future. Right now, in this sort of climate where the world is becoming more chaotic, our enemy is trying to make it so we cannot let them gain that ground. We have to push and make sure these networks remain strong, even when the country-to-country relationships might falter. These relationships, these city-to-city relationships, community-to-community, person-to-person, are even more important right now.